Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Rectified Podcast. Today, my guest is Mariela Katz, and we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, networking, life, and all of it. Welcome, Mariela.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I'm so excited to be here with you
Yeah.
virtually, but
Yes,
still.
yes, exactly, exactly. Mariella, let's start by what I think I this is how I know you basically. You're mostly known in Montreal for your amazing networking events.
Oh, thank you.
Other than all your businesses and everything. So let's just start with that and tell me a little bit more about how important networking is and how it helped you to first build your first business and now your second business.
Yeah, I can perhaps rephrase with a little bit of backstory about the networking events. I started the networking events while I had my marketing agency, and I'm sure we're going to dive into that
Yes.
later. But one thing that I realized is that a lot of my clients that I had that were business owners, and a lot of the people that I was training in my workshops were seeking that authentic place to connect with like minded people. So I was giving these workshops once a month, about 30 people, and people kept coming back to the same one. And I'm like, hold on, I know you've already taken this workshop. Why are you coming again? And the feedback or the response that I would get is, the networking and the connections that I'm making here are so valuable that it's worth for me to come back and take the
Mhm,
workshop again. It's a fresh reminder, it's a nice reminder, but then I get to meet these amazing people. And I can proudly say I have connected a few partners, people that have joined ventures in different ways, and a lot of amazing other connections that have happened during those workshops then.
mhm,
So I was like, maybe there's an opportunity here to create something, that's only networking oriented. And that's how Let's Connect, the first Let's Connect happened. It was very organic. It was not thought out to be a brand on its own or a business on its own per
mhm.
se. The first networking event I did was with alumni students only. People started reaching out saying like, "How come I didn't see it? Let me know when's the next one." I opened it, so we went from 40 to 60, I think 60 to 80, 90, and from there we did 120, 150, and 200 people at our last event.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. How important networking is in entrepreneurship and in business, even if you have like a 9 to 5 job. I see a lot of people, they like to, oh, I can build it myself. And they're like in their home offices or whatever, and they're like behind their computers, but they're not really going and talking to people like in real life. So, from your experience, how important it is to actually go and network with people and build those connections.
I do believe you can be very successful in business without necessarily going out there and doing the networking, doing the efforts. But I do think that your business journey would be a lot easier and seamless if you do have those connections and if you do
Mhm.
put yourself out there continuously. I always say your network is your net worth. And
Yeah,
there's nothing that is more valuable than being able to pick up your phone right now, call someone, ask for advice, for a collaboration, for whatever it might be. And I'm saying, like, hell yeah, I loved you as a person when I met you X amount of time. Let's meet and chat. There's nothing that is more valuable than this.
yeah,
People love people at the end of the day. They don't love brands. So you want people to love your
sure.
brand? Well, how about you start making it about you as the business owner in the face of your company
Yeah,
first, and then putting the brand
yeah.
second. And that's sort of how I go about, my businesses too. And I love being the face, and I love being very implicated in that.
Yeah, especially with small businesses, like people actually buy from you and not from whatever product or service you're offering. I had to learn this the hard way. I come from Lebanon, and in Lebanon, it's a different culture. Like networking is different, how people interact, how people help each other in business is done in a different way. And then when I moved to Montreal years ago and I started my business, etc., it was a bit weird. Like, I didn't want to ask for people's help. I fell into that trap. But then the more I lived here and the more experiences I got, I'm like, no, here it's different. You can network, people help each other. It's not that they don't help each other there, but it's just a different vibe and a different dynamic. And I always
I
like to emphasize
completely
on
understand
that part.
what
Yeah.
you mean, and I think culturally networking can be very, very different. And I relate to that.
Mhm.
I'm half Russian, half Bulgarian,
Yeah.
and I've been back to Bulgaria a few times since I've been an entrepreneur, and you really do see how people interact very differently
Yeah.
in the business world, on that front. So I think we're quite lucky, to be honest, in Montreal for that, because it's a very, people are open minded and they are seeking it by themselves. They don't feel forced, let's say,
Yes.
to go out there and network.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Mariela, tell me a little bit about your first business. You had an agency, how you started that, and then we'll move through your journey to today.
Yeah. So I started my first business, Frenzr, which was and still is because we got acquired. So it's a business that still exists, and I'm
Hmm.
very proud of that. Now it's going to be soon 10 years ago. I started it really with by seeing a need in the market. There was a need in the market at the time for a small agency that can really fill the gap between the freelancer and the big agencies.
Mm.
So, sort of accessible for the small to medium business, but once again, with a small team that's very flexible, very agile, creative, strategic, and I can really think outside the box. Not that the big agencies can't, not that the freelancers can't, but simply because of the size, they wouldn't necessarily have that agility to do so. The freelancer cannot be, five things or five professions at the same time. And the big agencies, they have all these processes that they need to necessarily go through before they can get to an end result, which ends up costing a lot of time, a lot of money, etc. So
Hmm.
that's really how it all started. I started by myself, investing my own time, taking on clients by myself. I reached the point of having 10 clients by myself, and I was still working full time at the time. I was going to university in the evenings, finishing up a PR certificate in McGill, and I was quite busy, and I was like, okay, I think it's time to hire someone. And I always had the vision that I wasn't going to be doing this alone. The vision was always in a small agency, and that was really the beginning of Frenzr.
Mm. So, how did you get your first client? Like, who was that first person who trusted, this young girl
Yeah,
trying to like work for me,
I,
that kind of thing?
I hope she watches this. Her name is Rose. We're still in touch. So Rose was my first client with her brand, and she walked in at my job that I had at the time. So I was working
Hmm.
for an agency, and she had recognized me from the online world. I was doing YouTube videos in a past life about makeup and beauty and all that good stuff as a teenager. That's
Yeah.
actually what really sparked my passion for that marketing world and whatnot.
Hmm.
And she's like, Mariela, I have been following you since your YouTube days. I would love to give you some of my products. Uh, I had a meeting with, the agency here. I'm not sure if it's going to work out, just the budgets and whatnot. But anyways, I would love to meet, give you the product. So I said, yeah, of course, no problem. Like, here's my number or send me an email. I forget how we did it really. And she's like, okay, so I met up with her. We met up for a coffee, and she gave me her products, told me about her brand. And basically, she wanted me to be an influencer for her brand, which at the time was not even really a term that
Hmm.
existed for that.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what, I love everything that you represent, that you're all about. I love your brand. I love the branding. Let me just check out sort of what's your positioning right now so I can tell you how I can align, my content
Mhm.
with it. So I go on her Instagram, I go on her Facebook, and she had like 63 followers and a few very filtered, old school Instagram photos. I know, like
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
years
yeah.
as well. Um, and I was like, okay, I don't think what you need is me talking about your brand. I think you
Mhm.
need to put some fresh content out there. Speak about your brand in a whole different way, and only then you can even start thinking about people promoting your brand. I'm like, let's have fun. Let's do this for a month. It's free. Like, give me your
Yeah.
product, give me your password. Let me play around. She's like, okay, why not? Sure.
Yeah.
So that was my first client, and after a month,
Mhm.
she had gained. At the time, it was much easier to get
Yeah.
followers. If you guys remember,
Yeah.
good times. A few hashtags, beautiful pictures, and whatnot was just
Exactly.
a trick.
Mhm.
So a month later, I think we were at about 1,000 followers, and she was getting a lot of traction from business friends and acquaintances saying like, "Wow, your business is booming. What have you been doing?" And I remember I was traveling, and she called me. She's like, "Mariela, I am getting asked." Like, what's going on with my business? It's booming. She said, the only thing is different is what you're doing for me online because of the image
Mhm.
that you're putting out there for me. I'm gonna have people email you. You tell them what you charge, and the rest is history. So
Wow. Yeah.
I got picked up on a little conference, and where I spoke about doing social media for small businesses, the importance of it, and really how to do it in a quick 101.
Mhm.
And picked up a few other clients like this, and that was really it. Those are the first sort of clients that I had, and I really believe, and I still see it today. And I have coached a few people in the past that were starting out in this industry. In order for you to create your name for yourself, you can't be going in guns blazing and charging all these amounts when you have no
Mhm.
show. And if you're
Yeah.
looking to find something to show, it's so easy to approach a brand and to sort of do this similar exercise where you know take them on as a project. You're able to do a lot of nice things, and you sort of use it as a
Yeah.
case for yourself and to sell yourself later.
Mhm. Well, nowadays, I mean, you're seeing what's going on in the social media world, and every single person they want to be social media managers and they want to be creators. Like when you started, it was like at the very beginning of it all, and nowadays things have changed, but still it is something the concepts I believe are still the same, except it's the algorithms and how every single platform is working.
Yeah.
How important it is for like a small brand to work on their image, like what's the advice that you give them?
Working on the image is a lifetime of an investment, and setting key pillars from day one is gonna help you in the long run, in 3, 5, 10 years. I can even say the efforts that I did with my agency that I built 10 years ago, they're still paying off to this day in a completely
Mhm.
unrelated business,
Yeah.
because it built a brand that people recognize, people like, people related to, and people even got to experience through different events. And that sort of those sort of efforts are going to forever follow you as a business owner, and you're able to attach it to yourself, but you're able to attach it to the work that you do, the values that you
Mhm.
represent, the team that you have alongside yourself, etc., etc. So I would say it's very important. I would say to do it from day one if you can, and I know it's difficult for everyone, but small efforts, whether it's once a week to do a little effort towards your brand's image, it will only pay off in the
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, totally agree with you. So you had your agency, you out of the blue started, these networking events because of the need you saw, etc., etc. Fast forward to when? A year, 2 years ago, you
Year
sold
and a
it?
half ago.
A year and a half ago, you sold your agency and you started a completely new venture. I
Yeah,
don't see it unrelated because you're using everything you knew from before in this business. But
absolutely.
tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So the story of selling the business happened over a few years. When it first crossed my mind, so first of all, I never got into business to sell it. I
Yeah.
never got into business to. There's different sort of entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
not one of them. I always loved what I did, and I still love that industry very much, actually.
Mhm.
So the first time that it crossed my mind, should I maybe consider selling my business, was at the beginning of COVID, because I was pregnant.
Mhm.
We were losing clients because of COVID. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I think a lot of people got like scared, and that was my
Mhm.
first. Is it maybe time to sell? I'm pregnant. People are canceling or putting their contracts on hold. I spoke with my CFO, and she's like, it would be literally the worst timing for you to sell.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing that move. Don't go there. And I said, perfect, no problem. Keeping it status quo. We went through the woes of COVID. It actually worked out very well for us. We did I think, very well considering.
Yeah.
Um, so that was that. In that time, we moved offices. I invested in a new studio, etc., etc. So once again, no thinking towards selling. On the contrary, expanding, growing, reinvesting in the business. Comes around my second pregnancy. So I'm in my third one right now.
Yes.
Comes around my second pregnancy, and when life sort of puts the right person in front of you at the right
Mhm.
time, when you
Mhm.
sort of have something in your mind. And that's exactly what happened. I met this person, and it was the idea had sort of restarted coming up top of mind. And a given person tells me I do mergers and acquisitions for small, medium, and a few large businesses. I was like, hold on. Are you
What?
saying you could sell my business? And he goes like, yeah. I'm like, very interesting. Let's talk. So we started talking, and so basically, I didn't know that because I was never in that world. But his job, what he does, his company, is that he's a broker for business, for helping to sell and buy businesses.
Mm.
And I signed on, and it was like, no strings attached. What they do is they do a round of reaching out. They present your business. You can either be anonymous, or you can have your brand attached to it. I was even like scared to put my brand to it, so I
Yeah.
was like, don't say the name. I don't want people to know that I'm selling, because I
Yeah.
was sort of
Yeah.
like trying it out. Let's see.
Mhm. Mhm.
Of course, you look at all your numbers. Everything is very well sort of prepared ahead. So it was quite a bit of
Mhm.
preparation. And then you go to market. You go to market with a price, a presentation deck. If there's an interest, so they reach out to a lot of different people. And it's sort of listed on a few business selling websites as well that are quite industry specific. And once there's an interest, people sign an NDA, and then they send the full details. So that's sort of how it went. And I only spoke to the people that had signed a letter of intent.
Yeah.
So that's much, much further into the process. That's a letter of intent of like, I have an intention of buying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I spoke to a few people, and recapping the story, but five of the six people I spoke to were agencies, very amazing people that I still admire to this day, and one was an individual. And I sold to an individual. She's very much like me, very similar mindset, and we had a lot of crazy things that sort of connected us, although we didn't know each other. And she's still running Frenzr to this day. So that's sort of the
Yeah.
story up to it. And then, of course, you need to go. I had to go through a process of um, sort of that in between period. So I
Mm-hmm.
stayed up with the company for another 6 months. And then later, I had already started working on my current business, Nutterie. So I was doing all the branding, all the packaging on the back end while I was doing that. And I waited until I was fully retired, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Fully retired. I took a 1 month vacation with my family, my first retirement vacation, and then I launched my second business.
That's not really retirement because you had everything working in parallel and then yeah. So tell us a little bit more about Nuttery. It's the product is not revolutionary, let's say, but the concept and how it's presented is what makes it special. That's how I see it. Tell us a little bit more about how you came up with this concept. And
Yeah,
obviously, we can see your experience with the agency in this brand also.
yeah. So how it all started? A lot of people are asking me, what's the connection
Mm,
between why did you even get into the nuts industry?
yeah.
So when I first met my husband, so my husband is in the industry. He's
Okay.
an importer, so that means he imports the goods. He's the first one to receive them into the country, and then he wholesales to in very large quantities to people who then even them resell, or,
Mm-hmm.
or that they repack and then sell to grocery stores or to a broker that's then gonna sell again. So
Yeah.
the common word here is reselling and
Mm.
repackaging, and that's what I got to learn very fast. Is that those products that don't actually cost that much
Yeah.
costs so much is all the travels and all the reselling. And we would always get asked every time we would host or receive people, how can we buy some nuts from you? Your nuts taste so good. It's very different from what I buy in the grocery stores. Why is that? And so I noticed very fast that there was a lack of information and the access to very good quality nuts was really not there. And I'm a shopper and a health conscious shopper too.
Yeah.
So I've tried, I've bought, and I haven't found something that I was like, wow, this is really
Mhm.
nice, you
Yeah.
know? And for some people, even life changing, simply because they're vegan or et cetera, et cetera. Um, so when I was in the process of selling my company, my husband's like, okay, I know you. I know you're not going to just,
Yeah.
on the
Sit
phone.
around.
What do you have on your mind? And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, it's time to sell nuts by the kilo. And he's like, perfect. I have never wanted to do it. So you go ahead and do that. And that's how it all started, sort of coming to fruition. So I started working on the brand, the branding, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Now, this industry is very, very interesting because it's, as you said, the product is nothing revolutionary.
Yeah.
So we are creating a lot of new things. I believe I am challenging the norm, the nut norm, at least in sort of Quebec per se.
Yes.
Once again, we're not that known yet, but I think it's
Mhm.
just a matter of time. And I'm planning to continue to challenge the norm of what is being done or how you can really develop unique products with sort of the products or the category of products that we're in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things on the marketing front that can be done, and there's a lot of things on the product development front that I personally take care of. So that is
Mhm.
something, a bit different than what I would do on the marketing side, but still, as you were saying it earlier,
Yes.
very, very intertwined.
Yeah, exactly. I do have a lot of food. I did have on the podcast people who come from the food industry, um, and they created like innovative product. Let's say like
Mhm.
midday squares, and that kind of. So it's things that are new or different, but in the healthy category. Yours
Completely.
is nuts, but you're presenting it in a way. I follow the brand on social media, and I see like all those recipes and nut milks and this and that, and I can see your experience in it. Um, what do you say to like someone who wants to start new and really doesn't have, the agency experience or content creation experience or anything related to marketing? Like, what should they do at first, whether they're selling food or anything else?
I think is knowing what your brand stands for, what it represents. Then step one. Step two is looking at examples that you love. Step
Mm-hmm.
three is looking at how your brand sort of fits in those examples that you love, and associating, what your brand stands for to those examples that you love. Then that will sort of define or create an image, and it can be a physical image as a mood board, literally,
Yeah.
or something that you have in your mind. And I always say put it down on paper. So create that mood board, and then start to aim to create or recreate slowly, but with your own twist. So it's not about copying, but it's about being inspired or being led towards a certain, perhaps it's an aesthetics goal, perhaps it's a promotional goal,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps it's a community goal. But all those goals, slowly but surely, you can create different steps towards them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be like a very quick high level tip. If
Yeah.
you don't come from the marketing industry, you don't need to have a marketing background in order to start developing and creating something for yourself. And when you are passionate, when your product is good, when it stands out, as you were saying, my product looks different, it feels different, and it will taste different, and my approach to selling it is different. So everyone
Mm-hmm.
that's doing everything, my competitors,
Yeah.
between you and I used to do the same thing in the agency. I never looked at what they were doing, and
Yeah.
and I'm genuinely not interested,
Mm-hmm.
because I do it my way, and I'm selling it even on my end in a completely
Yeah.
different way. So I'm selling it direct to consumer. We're skipping the retailer. So there's no retailers. We have
Mm-hmm.
associate with small, small, small places, perhaps in the city, more sort of pop-up style or collaboration
Yeah.
style.
Not like the
And
big supermarkets and all of these things.
so that we
Mm-hmm.
can cut in the prices, and so we can really increase freshness, and we pack for your order. So if Sandy, you order today,
Mm-hmm.
we will literally pack your order as it comes through
Yeah.
and send it to you.
Yeah.
And we're, quality controlled, temperature controlled, everything is sealed, backpack, blah blah blah, until it literally reaches you.
Yeah.
So there's no, you are as direct to farm as you can possibly get by doing this
Mm-hmm.
process, versus your products, you know being packed, repacked, sold, resold, reaches
Yeah.
supermarket, stays in there for three to six
Yeah.
months You buy it, you don't know for how long
Mhm,
this has been
mhm.
there. Has it been close to the window? Has it been?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is, it's not bad, but it's somehow
Yeah.
not good either.
Yeah, I noticed the difference,
And that's
honestly.
exactly what you're gonna
Yeah.
get from, the supermarket sort of
Mhm.
quality. Then when you
Yeah.
try Nutterie, that's why I say it. It's a completely different taste experience, from the taste, but also from what we also sell on the site. So we've created nut milk boxes, and people are like, "Oh, you do nut milk?" So I'm like, "No, no, no." So it's a box that has everything for you to create your own nut milk at
Yeah.
home. So it's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I've never heard of that. Explain it to me." So
Mhm.
we explain it to them. We
Yeah.
created toppers. Okay, toppers were a thing. There's a few brands that do it. They have maybe one product. There's one product at Costco that exists for salads, but it's nothing like revolutionary. It doesn't taste all that great. It's not that healthy. It's not fun either. It's, you have it and you're like, it's gonna go stale, but I have a topper, for my salads. Versus these ones, you're excited to use them.
Mhm.
They're fun. They have fun names too, and I sort of always do. If you
Yeah.
get to know me a little bit, or if you follow my journey, you always get to know where the names are coming from, the back end
Yeah.
story
Yeah,
of
yeah,
all the
yeah.
products, and they're all like running gags either at home or at work. So
Mhm.
it's quite fun, and I think as a brand, you also need to think outside the box, and you need to also not take it too serious. So Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How much, like in your agency, I know that, knowing people and your network and all of that helps you get more clients because it's word of mouth. So, this brand tells the other brand or they see things. But how much does that help you sell more nuts, let's say online, direct to consumer? Is it all your friends, or, how much is it helpful
Yes.
to also
It's an
build a network?
amazing question. And I think that question has different layers of response. I'm going to give it to you. Like, I'll try to be
Mhm.
very concise.
Yeah, yeah.
I think building a personal brand for yourself where you create, yes, a network. It can be a
Mhm.
close network, but it can be an extended network. So here I'm literally referring to followers. Okay. So followers. So this sort of secondary network
Yeah.
can be very, very beneficial to launching a new brand or pivoting like I did very much. So people were part of that pivot and then they supported it. That's how they know me. And I, when I post about something that we're doing, there's already a first level of people that know about it simply from my own social media. So I always believe in, there's networking, but there's also building that
Yeah.
secondary level community for yourself of connections. Then you have, the connections that you build through time, one-on-one connections that are not necessarily friends, but they're business acquaintances, all of that. Those people are of course going to follow along as well. So still very, very important. I really I really saw the benefit of that when we did our first pop-up last December. So we did a pop-up for a month, and the way that the idea of the pop-up is to gather a few local brands that were going to be there permanently for an entire month.
Mhm.
And yes, local brands, but still big brands. And it sort of went like, pick up the phone, call, hey, I'm doing a pop-up this and this date, do you want to join? These are the details. Want
Mhm.
to be there? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, perfect, next one. And it was yes, 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 and yes. And that's once again from those connections that you build through time.
Yeah.
People want to participate in whatever journey you're on and want to be a part of it with their own brand. Um, then it's an internal fight, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs, though, people that come from the service industry and the product industry. You always think the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
The service industry always says, oh, my clients are tough, so many corrections, blah 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 with
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
team. You're it's a different sort of monster on its own. So product is better, product is easy, you sell a product and here it
No.
goes.
No.
And the product people are like, oh, my product, how do I sell it, how do I market it, how do I put it in front of people? Servicing would be so much easy, I offer my
Mhm.
service, it sells itself. So I have, because I've worked with so many people in both different industry, I've heard it so many times,
Yeah.
and I knew very well what I was walking into. I knew I was crossing onto the other side.
Yeah.
And one thing that I noticed this year actually was how much I missed the one-on-one connection with the client
Mhm.
or people.
Yeah.
I started doing two things in order to continue sort of first connecting, having those connections, and also connecting with my clients as well. So I started simply, you pass a big order, I would reach out to you. Hey, Sandy, I saw
Mhm.
you placed a big order, or it's like your sixth order in Nutterie. Thank you so much for your support. Sort of
Mhm.
connecting, taking your feedback, seeing how you're liking it. Is there something that we can do better, etc. And the answer was like, we love it, or hey, people love telling me some ideas they have for mixes, and I love that. Like
Mm.
people email me, I
Yeah.
really love this and this product. Can you put it together? And
Yeah.
I generally thrive on that because it allows me, yes, and we have done it actually. We are creating, when
Yeah.
we are launching a mix from a client. And if she watches this, she'll know who she is. But the Leo mix is coming up. And it was a client's idea. She called me. She's like, we really love everything, but we would like to have a little bit of indulgence mixed with a little bit of saltiness. And I was like, I love this. Let me just write it down and I'll get
Yeah.
back. Um,
This is actually pretty cool because you're getting direct feedback from them and
Exactly.
really catering to what they want.
Think of a brand that does this for their customer, because I can't think of one.
Mm,
And
usually, yeah, for
he's so
product based, they don't do it.
no,
Mm,
because people, either the brand is too big, so they're not agile, or
yeah.
people don't want to go out of their way to do something like that, or to
Mhm,
actually listen to their clients. So those were sort of two of my values that were very important to me. And the other thing that I
mhm.
started doing is I started reaching out to people that I want to work with. So there's a lot of different businesses in the city or even outside of the city that I want to work with, simply because I align with them.
Yeah.
Restaurant that I love, they're using nuts, I'm reaching out to them.
Yeah,
So
I can see those things. Yeah, these things we can see them on your social media. Like somebody's creating a recipe for you. This restaurant is doing that for you. So I do like this idea, and I kind of, well, knowing your journey, I kind of made the connection that it's people that and it's your agency thing. It's you reminded me of a little bit myself, but the opposite, because I started in the product world for like 10, 11 years. And then I switched to services. And it's like the complete opposite. And I used to think, oh, services is easy just because it doesn't cost as much to like carry inventory and take care of that part, like the physical product part. But then all the rest is still complicated, just like you said. Nothing is like, the grass is not greener. It's just what you're passionate about and what you want to do, and
yeah.
just like making it happen in your life. Mariella, where I usually try to keep my episodes short, but I feel like we can talk about this for like hours and hours. I just want like one last advice for entrepreneurs, whether they're new or they've been there in their journey for years. Like, what is the number one advice that you tell them that you absolutely need to do this in your business, whether it's product or service based?
If you're a new entrepreneur, I would say go for it and start, even if it's imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what has led me to a lot of successes, is not overthinking it and just launching, proving the product or the method or the service, and then improving as it goes. If they are already an entrepreneur, whether, new or has experience,
Yeah.
I would say is don't take yourself too seriously. And I
Yeah.
think that, once again, I'm going to go back to
Mhm.
people love people, they don't love brands.
Yeah.
So if you let loose a little bit and
Mhm.
you show up as your genuine self, people are going to recognize that. And it's not tangible, right? It's not like, oh, she's a very genuine person, I really liked her. But
Yeah.
it's like, oh no, there's something about this person I really enjoyed and I
Mm.
love meeting and chatting with them. Why wouldn't I do business with this person?
Yeah.
So not taking yourself too seriously and more like letting that facade go,
Mm.
um, is also a tip for, yeah, something that I live by personally, and that has helped me
Yeah.
a lot.
I also learned that the hard way, the hard way, because when I started, I was very young and I was like 21 or something, and I looked like I'm 14. So I needed people to take me seriously. And I had like this tough attitude, like I'm tough and I can do this and I want to
I
look
have been through
older.
the same, so I relate. I relate.
Yeah. So I was like that, but the older I got, the more I'm like, no, I just have to be myself. And if
Yeah,
we need to be aligned, on our values and how we are and everything. I cannot
completely.
put like another mask on my face and say, oh, this is me and I'm a tough person and this and that. Meanwhile, I'm the complete opposite. So I can, like, you're talking and I'm like, oh my God, this is, this is so my journey too. Um, Mariella, where can we find Nutterie? How can we like buy your products?
Yeah. So the fun thing about Nutterie is that we're an online only business, so you can shop and we ship all throughout Canada. You can do so by ordering on our website at nutterie.com, and that's nutterie.com.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of French twist onto it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
on Instagram, we are It's Nutterie on
That.
Instagram as well.
Yeah.
So you can find some cool, fun things going on there. And the best part to connect is on our newsletter, which I take a lot of pride on. So subscribe to our newsletter. We have a lot of amazing things once a week.
Mhm.
So it's not too much. Promos that are always very fun, that I break my brains about,
Yeah.
but that people tell me that they love. So that's where you can connect. And if you want to follow along my personal journey in the nut industry as your personal nut lady,
Yes.
it's at Ella Katz, and
Mhm.
Katz with two Z's.
We're going to link to everything in the description of the podcast, of course. Do you have one last question before we wrap this up? Do you have any new networking events coming up? Are you planning anything new on that front?
No, because I'm gonna be networking with
Wow.
this little guy very soon. So for the
Yeah.
moment, nothing planned for this year,
Yeah.
and then for next year, hopefully something in the spring. So that's
All
sort of
right.
on that front that we can expect.
Perfect. Perfect. We're going to share that with our audience also whenever you're ready to restart. I wish you like all the best in with your third child and your business. You have like three kids, almost three kids, and
Yes.
another baby, which is Nutterie. So I wish you all the best. And thank you for being a guest on the podcast. And to all the listeners and viewers, I'll be back next week with a new episode.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you to everyone watching and listening.